You know where you are!
This is Appetite for Distortion.
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 476. My name is Brando. Welcome to the podcast from Testament and so many other projects. Alex Skolnick, how are you, sir?
Okay, Brando, thanks for having me.
Where are you located, if you don't mind me asking, unless it's like a secret, underground dwelling and you don't want to reveal it?
No, I mean, you can probably tell by the the design here. This is Florida, and actually in Orlando, which thankfully seems to be up and running, business as usual, despite Hurricane Milton. Our next show in Tampa, St. Pete, we just found out is canceled, unfortunately.
I mean, you look at it like, okay, at least it's canceled and nothing worse happened with the unpredictability of Mother Nature. So I'm glad to hear you're safe with the, yeah.
Exactly. As long as, I just want people to be okay. That's the most important thing. And
I have listeners everywhere in Florida. Obviously, my last name being Weissler. Of course, I have relatives in Florida. So it's
same
it's
here. Being a Skolnick, I spent many times, coming out here while growing up.
Sure.
And the retirement communities quite well.
Gotcha. Are you going to keep those green blinders? Are you going to keep that for when you actually do retire? Is that something you're
Oh,
gonna
that's an interesting idea. It's actually a painting, but
it's a paint.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
But somehow it feels very Florida. I don't, for some reason, it feels very Orlando.
Okay. I wanted to describe it for those listening in the podcast. That's what was going through my mind, as opposed to if you want watching this on YouTube, whatever. That's
there's actually a great
insider
view.
Baseball.
There's a great view out the window, but the sun is pouring in, so you wouldn't see it.
Do you do you like wake up and you have to remind yourself what city you're in because you're always doing so much and you've toured the world how many times over? There are some days you're like, okay, wait, where am I again? Or are you so regimented and you wake up and you have a schedule like, okay, I'm here today.
I like to know where I'm waking up.
I know you have a relative idea. I'm being like a little silly, of course, but is it I mean, sometimes I'm like, what day is it again? Especially in post-COVID.
It used to be more of a problem because, in the pre-smartphone days, you really had to check this booklet and just remind yourself of the routing of the tour. But now that we have these nifty little online gadgets called apps, the tour itinerary is done in an app. We're using one called Master Tour that a lot of bands use. And it just makes it so easy. You just check it the same way you check the time. You say, okay, what city? I usually already know by the time we're in the city, but what's the next city? I always like to know what's coming up. And I should also point out a lot of days I wake up on a bus because we get to the venues early, the bus pulls up before 10 a.m. and then there's only a few hours before sound check. So today's a day off, so no concert tonight. We do have an event, but no concert, so we stay in a hotel.
Okay, so I mean, through my silliness, there is sort of an answer there. I mean, if you're on a bus, you may not know. You could be crossing state lines, but it's interesting just having the tour life after all these years. Has it changed other than the apps for you, other than just being able to keep schedule? Is it? I got to imagine a little bit different than when you were younger, when it was.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It would be very hard to do now, I think, without the technology. For all the negative implications of technology, and there are many, such as social media dysfunction, the decimation of album sales, and many other factors to name. There are many positive qualities, including what I mentioned, having apps which tell you where you are, having maps. So, even if you're not sure where you are, you wake up and you're still en route, you can usually find out exactly where you are, and if you're over the state line. But more importantly, I'm just, a sense of connection. I think that would be the hardest thing to have at this point. I didn't imagine touring at this point in life because, one of the reasons is you would enter this period of total disconnection and isolation from everyone except on the tour. Now you have a phone with you at all times. It's really strange to think about, not having a phone, relying on payphones, not having email. And now you can just email someone or text someone. So you're just so much more connected. And I think that's made it a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though I'm slightly younger than you, we both have share a birthday month. Actually, happy belated birthday
Oh, okay.
for you. I'm
Happy
the
belated to you. Yeah.
Thank you. I turned 41 on September
Uh-huh.
8th.
Okay.
But I remember the days before the internet, although I was still kind of young and that's how you traveled and not being able to stay connected to others.
You
So it's,
remember it. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
I
old
do.
enough to remember the before times, as we
Before times, yes, before times. But I always have a method to my madness. The segue to it all. If you want to keep track of where Alex is, because right now I'm just looking at the poster for Clash of the Titans, Testament and Creator, the with Possessed. So yeah, you just mentioned that unfortunately the show in Orlando is going to be canceled because of the
not
hurricane.
Orlando. Orlando is happening.
Oh,
Uh
okay.
Tampa, St. Pete is
Oh, okay, I see. So St. Pete,
yeah.
and then you go to Texas, and yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I gotcha. Is that going to be for the fans? Like, are you going to try, or is it too soon to think about, like coming back, or it's just unfortunate situation of just this is canceled. It can't be a postponed date or something
I
like
mean,
that.
just to total honesty, it's very hard to organize a tour like this, and it would be hard to imagine Creator, coming all the way out from Europe and getting all their production for one show. I'm sure Testament coming back, that's a possibility. Maybe we'll come sooner than we would otherwise because of that. We always love playing at this particular venue. It's called Janus Landing in St. Petersburg. But as of now, we've been playing this waiting game because haven't even known until the last few hours whether the show was going forward or not. And I think they were waiting to see if the aftermath started to diminish, if electricity started to come back. We would have made it happen if we could, but it sounds like we won't even be able to plug in. So it's really not worth going, unfortunately.
I think all things considered, what everybody dealt with in 2020 and just a canceled year, all the postponements that happened with Testament. And so what's the latest, I guess, can you say, is it still projected hopefully for next year for a new record, or is it just
Yeah, oh,
focusing on?
absolutely. There are new
Okay,
records coming. It's on its way. It's still it's being tracked, but all the foundational parts, the drums are done. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So
cool.
it will happen next year. And we did play in St. Petersburg not that long ago on the Bass Strikes Back tour. So at least it's a place we have visited in recent years. I forget if it was last year or the year before, but we were there, and we'll be back when we can.
Right on. What's been the let's just get past this, one little blip. What's been the best part of this tour? Somebody who's been doing it, you've been touring since your late teens, right? So what's been the favorite part? What's been something that's like some highlights of this tour with the Creator that's been going on?
Oh, well, we sold out Montreal, which is great. Montreal always has some of the best fans. And just in general, we've been playing some great venues. It feels like we've unlocked a new level. We always felt like underdogs back in the day. We got some great support slots, but
Mhm.
when we headlined, it just, yeah, it felt like there was a certain level of venue that we always had trouble breaking through. Once in a while we could break through, but it feels like now we're really reaching that level, the type of venues where our best bet would be to support somebody else. For example, last night we played the Tabernacle in Atlanta, Georgia. And, you know, it's a wonderful venue, very elegant, very classical, you know, it's classic. It's an old church. So it's got this giant pipe organ and, you know, the posters all over the dressing rooms and the halls. You know, it's groups like them Crooked Vultures, Mars Volta, even Bob Dylan played there at one point. So, you know, it's nice to be able to play this level of venue, and we've done a few of those, and we have a few more coming up.
Right on. So I mean, congratulations. I love the term of unlocked a new level. And that's kind of I always feel like that in life. Like what's the next level? And especially
Yes.
in the video game kind of we were talking about you're doing an appearance or you a Comic-Con, right? Coming up. Is that's
Yes, I am scheduled to appear there as part of the team behind a film, a black comedy horror that kind of pays tribute to 80s horror films. And it's very kind of self-deprecating, but also very much captures the vibe of those great films from, you know, Halloween, Friday the 13th, so on. And yeah, there's so many of them. The film is called Traction Park Massacre,
perfect.
and it's yeah, it's really exciting to be a part of. So I'm contributing soundtrack. A lot of it is very cinematic, it's very different music than you've heard me do, but it's got some you know, guitar and heavy moments as well, and it's got some source music that is on the metal side. So I think yeah, I'm excited. I think people are going to really enjoy it when it comes out. I just have to figure out how to get there because of my travel plan suddenly got disrupted by the hurricane aftermath and the our show cancellation.
Right. And that was with my brain was going with the unlocked and just made me think of just like video games and Comic-Con. I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, is that going to be an issue with the hurricane? So hopefully you do appear. And I gotta
Yeah, and I've
say,
been there before. I was
okay,
there. I was on a panel for Murder in the Front Row, the documentary on the San Francisco Bay Area thrash scene, which was
right.
developed, directed by Adam Dubin, who's one of the directors of this film, Traction Park Massacre.
I love that. And because I am also a horror like freak,
Mhm.
I will go back and watch all those B horror movies and so, some of them Tubi. If for those who like it has the most TUBI, that has the most like free, like, most offbeat horror movies ever. Do you have like a top one, two favorite horror movies of all time? And was the music always something that maybe that drew you into it?
Oh,
Because that's
absolutely. Funny, I don't watch them as much in recent years. I'm a little bit of a film nerd, and I tend to like independent cinema, art house stuff. But when I was a kid, yeah, I was a big fan of those movies. I was in a group of friends, and we would rent video cassettes when that was a thing. And
sure.
we also had a revival house movie theater where you could see a lot of these movies on the big screen. And that theater, it's now a concert venue, interestingly, the UC Theater in Berkeley. But they were a terrific revivalist movie theater. So they would always have you know, a Stephen King night or a Kubrick night. And yeah, I loved you know, The Shining, which is King meets Kubrick. Uh,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Probably my number one. And I love the music for that as well, even though that's source music. Yeah, it's avant classical. It's Bartok and Penderecki. So that's definitely a big inspiration. But I also like, you know, I enjoyed, you know, the first Halloween, the first few Halloween. They're all great, but that first one was just, you know,
The
untouchable.
first one's the best. Yeah, yeah. I mean, with the amount of sequels that they've done, even the new ones, which I appreciate, where Jamie Lee Curtis comes back. I mean, that first one is, you're right, that's untouchable. And that's cool, man. I really I wish I had that kind of a theater growing up. I had to go like you. I had to go to get VHS tapes and go to Blockbuster and go to the horror section and pick out what was the coolest looking cover. Kind of the way you almost picked out music back in the day.
Yeah,
Just
and
go.
seeing those in the theaters were it was amazing. And they would also sometimes show perfect, intentionally bad films, and that was some of my favorites. Just the really bad monster movies, or Ed Wood Jr.,
Yeah,
Plan 9 from Outer Space. So
yeah.
where you can
One.
see the string. It was the spaceship. I always love those types of films as well.
Oh yeah, same here. Same here. Absolutely. Something else that we might agree on because we found out before the podcast, we both have cats.
Mhm.
All right. We've also found out we're both of the tribe. I guess some people refer to it. And then we're talking about horror. So, but we also are both fans of The Simpsons. So this is I'm not, I'm thinking you've answered this question before. But I always want to ask it, through my listeners. This is from Jeff Beers, from Michigan. How did you feel about Testament being referenced on The Simpsons? And that was with Reverend Lovejoy, just saying how what was it, the Jesus rock stylings of Testament. That's Friday at 6 p.m. sharp. Like he just thinking it was
Yeah,
a biblical band.
I thought it was a mistake when I heard about it, because I couldn't believe it, because I think that this happened in the 90s.
Yeah, it was an old one.
Yeah, I think at that point, just with a lot of pop culture seemed to be moving past heavy metal. Thankfully, that's changed a lot, but it was, hard music suddenly became something very different. And I liked a lot of the sort of grunge bands, Seattle bands, and whatever. But it was very strange how suddenly we groups like Testament were considered passe. And we'd only been around a few years. That was even stranger. We'd emerged like right before that decade. So I thought this must be some mistake. There's no way we're referenced on a major television event like The Simpsons. But sure enough, and then at one point I finally saw it, and I couldn't believe it.
I don't know. Is that also like horror movies where you used to watch it and you don't watch any of the new Simpsons? I still watch. I know a lot of people hate on it, but it's not the same, but
I
I still
haven't. Yeah, I actually haven't. Just because I don't have as much time. I'm just
I
kind of
understand.
spread pretty thin, so the things I watch are pretty few and far between.
You spread pretty thin. I can't believe
Yeah,
that. So what else is going on? Because you have Comic-Con, you have the tour, you have a podcast, right?
yeah,
How's that going?
yeah. I'm struggling, to be honest. It's great and a big challenge at the same time. I have offers to do podcasts with guests that I'm pinching myself. I've done several. Like one of my most recent ones was Al DiMiola, one of my all-time favorite guitar players. I had Satriani by and Eric Johnson together. I had Pat Metheny. Um, and there's some great ones on the calendar when I can do them. The problem is it takes time to put it together. There's I the process is great. It's like this. Yeah, we just have a conversation, but I just can't seem to leave well enough alone and release the conversation. Joe Rogan style. Bathroom breaks and all. I prefer to listen to something more polished. And also I get inspired when I listen back. And if say Al DiMiola and I are discussing a piece of music, I want to play that piece of music and talk and then work that into the conversation. So I'm almost done with my next episode. That's another thing I'm working on today, because it's very hard to do on tour, because I need silence, and there's not a lot of silence.
Yep.
The bus is not silent, the dressing rooms aren't silent, the stage is not silent, and often there's nowhere to go. So I have to rely on these hotel days, but then the hotel days get full of press. And anyway, so enough about the podcast.
Well, I like hearing that though. And then, by the way, the podcast and moods and
Moods and
modes.
modes, it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I as the host of this podcast, I'm the one who should have introduced it like that first.
Oh, that's
But
okay. And I
I
just
like
can't do a weekly, bi-weekly. I've given up on that. That was the original goal. I'm just gonna crank out content like a lot of the podcasts I listen to, but instead it's okay. It's when I can do it, and it ends up being an average about every 3 or 4 weeks at this point.
I think that's cool. In addition to everything else that you offer and the touring and just being interactive on social media, that's a part of what you do. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to talk to because I've been in radio for 20 plus years. This podcast is a happy accident that I kind of hybrided, that's a word, with my actual job for Premier Radio and iHeart. So it's interesting to see when musicians are given, usually the microphone was just on stage. And now
Yeah.
it's like where it's a fly on the wall. So you said like a conversation where we get to hear you and Steve Vai and in the same room. And was it who else? It's Satriani. And
Al
just being
DeMiola, Pat
and be,
Metheny, Peter
but being a fly on the wall,
Frampton.
I just think that's so it's
Yeah.
different than someone like me interviewing you. I try to make it conversational, but
Yeah.
those are actual real conversations between friends. And I think that's a really cool. It's a special thing to come out of. I saw more of it come out of the pandemic where musicians weren't touring. They were like,
Mhm.
"What can we do? Let's
Right.
let's do a podcast." And I think it's a silver lining to kind of come out of the pandemic and having to stay home is because now we get to really hear what you guys think, and we're not
Yeah.
always relying on social media sites. So, yeah, whenever you can
And
do it,
also
it's cool.
you hear about me from the horse's mouth. Not that hopefully I don't look like a horse, but
No.
it's much better than being reliant on press or websites or chat rooms, people saying, this is what Alex thinks. This is what, I can say it. And we were talking about technology earlier, and that's another benefit to technology. I mean, sometimes it gets annoying that anybody can weigh in with an opinion, even completely unqualified people, and some that just have an axe to grind because they don't like your band or they don't like your politics or whatever. But on the positive side, everybody has a voice, but I have my voice got amplified, and I can really be an individual, and it makes it much it makes it a much more pleasant experience to have this music career because I can be an individual as well as part of a band. And when it happened the first time around, I felt like I was just locked being part of this band. And also, I was much more shy back then. So, yes, I was on the other end of the microphone and not really good at expressing myself. And I like it much better now because I'm more comfortable with it. But, things just fell into place in that sense.
Right on. And I also understand while my schedule is not quite as like yours, because I'm not a rock star. I'm just a new
Yeah.
dad. So I just told you off the air. And thankfully I timed it out perfectly where my son is sleeping on my chest
Uh-huh.
and I'm waiting for my wife to come home to go take him into our bedrooms, so I have quiet time to do this, just like you need quiet time.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
just within the minute I signed on Zoom, you signed on. So I got to find my time too. So I appreciate that, knowing that it's not just me, it's everybody, rock stars,
Yeah.
just like us.
But having the technology to do this is great. And also,
Right, because I would used to have to go to the studio, and now again, with the silver linings from the pandemic, I get to have a studio and at home and get to interview
yeah.
you easily.
Yeah, and also now I'm able to put out content. I know content's a kind of a loaded term. Some people hate it, but let's use it. Yeah, I'm able to put out content whenever I want, at whatever I want. One of my most watched videos this year has been me playing a solo guitar arrangement of a Police song
Hmm.
and King of Pain, which
Oh,
is something people, back in the day would have never associated with. Yeah, people, oh, the guy from Testament, oh, there's no way he likes the Police. No, I love the Police. And I also like solo guitar and instrumental music. And yeah, I did this arrangement. It's kind of rough. I mean, I was planning to do it, but it just keeps getting feedback. It's this people are discovering me that don't even know Testament or know anything about me. I've actually had a few videos like that. I've done these little solo pieces, and I may do an album of that stuff at some point. That's one of the reasons I do it. It's sort of
okay.
sharing these works in progress, but I'm able to share it with people like at my own pace, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, same with my trio music, which is coming along. I have a new trio album that's going to come out next year. We just got booked on Cruise to the Edge with all these prog uh, legends, which is a little different for us, but I couldn't be more honored. And that crowd has been very receptive to me, despite me coming from a different lane, so to speak.
It's just so funny. We'll get to all these lanes, so to speak, because it's so blurred
Mhm.
nowadays. It's funny when people pick and choose. But you mentioned just doing solos, so I want to just use the opportunity to put in another fan question. This is
Uh-huh.
from Tom P. Your favorite Testament solo, does that change, or do you
Oh,
have,
okay.
or is that an easy one to answer, or is it like picking your favorite child
Okay, yeah. Well, when I use
or
solo
your
in
favorite cat, I
your
guess for you?
example, I was talking about playing unaccompanied, but sure, if you're talking about a guitar solo, um, yeah, it's hard to say because there's a few, um, and I don't like a lot of artists. I don't spend a lot of time listening to my own music. It's done. It's there for other people. I've moved on. Yeah, we all have. We all. So what I say is a favorite solo is going to be one that I enjoy recreating in a live concert. So probably I think Electric Crown is one of my favorites. I just have a great time playing that. There's room to improvise just a little bit, but still keep it recognizable.
Right
And
on.
it's it's not it's a mid-tempo song, especially for Testament. And I have other favorite solos, but a recent favorite has been the New Order. You know,
Okay.
I've just found a couple ways to tweak that solo. So so it's slightly different than I played it the first, way back in the day after it was recorded.
Did that become like just a fun thing to do live, or do you ever go back and be like, I kind of wish I did it this way, even though it's already cemented in its legacy, but just as a
I
creative
never think
mind?
about, no, it is what it is. And I always
Okay.
respect what it is. But I also think, okay, if this was somebody else, and sometimes it does feel like somebody else, it's this version of me that existed in 1988, just out of high school. Um, okay, say I'm learning this from another person. How would I approach it? And I play it like I play now, and I play differently now with all my musical and life experience. So somehow that solo, the New Order, um, with me playing it live with my own approaches, not thinking about position on the neck and anything else that I did back then, just redoing the ideas. I really enjoy playing it. Um, I put it behind Electric Crown though, just because, uh, the New Order it's really fast, and it just requires a lot of warm up. Whereas
Okay.
Electric Crown is mid tempo, so it's a little less frantic.
Does any
But
of your
I
stuff
enjoy.
get like, I'm sorry, but it just
Okay.
because I know I want to keep you here forever, and because I know you
Yeah, I
gotta.
got 2 more minutes. I can do.
Oh, 2 more minutes, and I got to really make this count then. Well, as you know, you can tell by my background, this is a Guns N' Roses themed podcast.
Huh?
And I always look for like a 6 degrees of GNR bacon kind of connection. I
Uh,
know you've praised Slash before. We're talking about all these different maybe like hats that you wear and all these different creatives. You talk about how Slash did that.
well,
So
Slash literally wears hats, though.
yeah, pun was intended. Pun was you picked up on that. It wasn't intended. I just you picked up on it anyway. So I would just like to know if you do have a 6 degrees of GNR bacon, if you've seen the band live, if you do have any sort of connection that we're not aware of, anything Guns N' Roses related we can get from you before I let you go.
Yeah, well, I saw the band in its original incarnation, which I'm really glad I caught them when I thought that lineup would keep going for years, but I'm really glad I caught them when they did. They were on tour with Aerosmith, and they were terrific. It was at the Concord Pavilion in Northern California, and they were fantastic. Um, there's a lyricist named Del James
Sure.
that our singer Chuck works with that is close with Axel, and I think he's might have done some lyrics with him. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean he's basically like part of the our Testament group for his work with Chuck, and there's that connection.
Oh, I didn't know that Del. Well, of course, writing the story that would become November Rain, and he's still their tour
Right.
manager.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's very tight with Chuck, and they've collaborated on lyrics before.
Oh, cool.
But as far as me, no, I need to meet Slash. I know we have a lot of mutual contacts and friends. Miles Kennedy is a friend. Um, Todd Kearns is a friend.
I
So
love Todd.
yeah, so I know all these folks that play with him, and I know, in the music equipment world, we have some mutual friends as well. But yeah, somehow it hasn't happened
How
yet.
has that not happened? Yeah,
Somebody needs to put us in the same place at the same time. We have been on festivals together, but when they're on a festival, when they isolate it as they should. I understand. He's a real like A-lister in the music industry. So, but at some point, I'm sure we'll cross paths like outside of a gig or event.
well, hopefully just for friends' sake, but to see what you guys can do creatively, the mind could just take off and wander. I will say this, I'll
Oh,
end this here because Slash is known for his hair. I
uh-huh.
don't know, Alex, your hair. If I had, I'm saying this as like a bitter bald man.
Uh-huh.
It's, is that true? Like, I don't want to accuse. Is
That's
that
oh yeah, I've told
strategic?
the story for years. That's real. That's been there for years.
No, the
Now
gray.
it,
The
it
gray
is
is perfect though. The
yeah.
gray is perfect. And if I
It came
had that,
in. It always looked like this. I
it's like
mean,
it's like Rogue from the X-Men. It's perfect.
yeah, and I had it before that. I had I had it in high school. I just showed up. I tried to get rid of it. It kept coming back. And full disclosure, it's now starting to come up elsewhere. And kept I've
How
kept this
early?
look. Huh?
So you went gray in high school?
I went gray in high school. Yeah, not
Wow.
fully gray, but just like this much. So
All right.
yeah, it just showed up. It chose me. And I'll just add one more Guns N' Roses anecdote. Last
Sure.
night at the Tabernacle in Georgia, there was a piano in the dressing room, and it was tuned, which is rare. And among the little pieces I was tinkering with was "Sweet Child of Mine."
Okay.
I think I played it pretty nice. Yeah,
All right. Well, maybe that'll be on a jazz album of yours
yeah.
coming up.
I wouldn't hire myself on piano, but I can play it enough so that it's recognizable and it's got a good vibe. And we'll
Well,
see. Maybe
maybe
if I practice more.
maybe that's the Slash collab that's in the future. We'll see.
Ah,
Uh,
interesting.
Alex, thank you so much for your time. I've been wanting to speak with you for a long time. I just think you're so cool. I think you're a fun follow on social media, stirring up shit. You're so
Yeah.
much smarter than the people that are out there. It's it's
I have fun.
reassuring. It's reassuring sometimes just to like read the smart tweets and just watching you put people
And I'm
down.
not trying to put anybody down. I'm trying to
Well, that's right.
welcome them in. Got it. Yeah.
You're right. I'm
Oh,
phrasing it
Pete.
differently. You're offering them peace, and you know how to. I don't know. They keep coming at you angry, and you're
Yeah.
just like, relax.
Yeah.
This is my view. Deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm
that's an
talking, be smart with us.
right. Become smart with
Now,
us. That's the name of the next album, maybe for Testament.
I don't know, keep it. I'll suggest it.
Awesome. So, Alex, thank you so much for your time. I hope we get to do this again.
You got it. Thanks, Brando.
That
Take
does
it.
it for this episode of Appetite for Distortion. When will you see the next one? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.